Alright guys, welcome back. So I'd like for you to take out this assignment that says volume. What is that shape right there? It's a cone. Let's go ahead and write volume of cone, real big. And since this is day one, we'll write day one. And let's look at our, first thing I want you to do is look at our reference material guide. And I want you to notice what we've got on here. Okay? We're still talking about volume. And so far we've done sphere. We talked about that formula. Cylinder, we've talked about this formula. And these formulas are so close, the cone and the cylinder, except for this little guy right there. You cannot forget that 1/3. And remember, this V over here has to be capitalized because on the other side it has its own formula. Any capital letter has its own formula. And in the cone formula we have today, we're going to be using that capital B again. Capital B means it's got its own formula. Okay? So I want you to write the formula up here. V equals 1/3 capital B times the height. 1/3 capital B times the height. So first of all, as we've talked about, there's parts that you're going to need. Okay? And on the directions for this particular assignment, I'm telling you right now, here are the 3 parts that you're going to need in order to solve this. When you see, in 8th grade, when you see a question like this, you're going to put a box around the word volume, and you're going to go to your formula chart, and you're going to go, okay, this is a cone. I'm going to go to volume. I'm going to go down to cone, and first thing you're going to do is write the formula. If you don't write the formula, I'm taking points off. So we're going to write volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height line of this thing. Okay? Now, which one of these 3 have I told you to start with? The height. Go get the height of this guy. 8, right? Was it 8? Mm-hmm. Take it off of the picture and list it off to the side. Inventory it over here. This is your inventory. Okay? Now, we can put 1/3 in our calculator. We have our height. We need to calculate capital B. What is the shape of the base of this thing? A circle. Let's go ahead and write that during our instruction. And if I need to find the area of that base, and that base is a circle, you're going to look on your formula chart, go to area, and here's our capital B for circle. Okay? Pi r squared. So pi times radius squared, just like we were doing yesterday. Okay? So now I need my radius. Do I have my radius, or do I need to cut that in half? I have it. Drop in my 6. Square that, because that's what the formula calls for, and hit pi. Okay? Now, this is your capital B. Now today, I'm going to ask you to do it just slightly, a little bit more detailed so that we can make sure we understand how to answer star level questions. And we're going to take capital B and we're just going to write the formula where we're going to substitute the entire formula for that capital B. We're going to substitute the entire formula for that capital B. So let's just start here. We have V equals, I know we can put 1/3 in our calculator, and I'm going to put parentheses where the capital B is. And we're going to substitute the whole thing. What is H? 8 is out here. So we're going to multiply 1/3 times what we have for B times the height line. What do we have for B? Here it is right here. Okay? We're going to take that whole formula, and we're going to write pi times 6 squared, and we're going to put this in the calculator just like this, and it's going to give us the total volume. But first I want you to put a box around this, because as we talked about yesterday, this is going to be your answer about half of the time. About 5 out of every 10 times, you're simply going to have to take the radius and put it, and maybe the height line, and put it into the formula properly. Let's solve. Get your fraction framework in there. Green button, and then that. 1 is my numerator, 3 is my denominator, page right to get out of the fraction. Open parentheses. Get your pi button in there. And now your pi, you don't need to write times here. You don't need to in these calculators. You can just hit 6 x squared, close parentheses. And what's my height line again? 8. And now I'm ready to solve. Hit enter, and now I've got the total volume, much quicker a little bit today, for this cone. 301.592. I'm going to stop there because we're going to round to the nearest hundreds. Michael, which one of these numbers is the hundreds? The 9. Exactly. It's the hundreds because there's 100 pennies in a dollar. So you underline that, circle the 2. Is that 2 big enough? No, so it's going to remain 301.59. In this case, our units, we can go ahead and write our units in there. It's centimeters, and since it's volume is three-dimensional, so it should say like this, centimeters cubed. Okay? That is the volume. All right? So, oftentimes, let's look at the second one. Oftentimes, you're going to be given a situation like this where you're not necessarily given the height, but the height is given to you in the words. And so you can just draw it in here. Let's just draw the height. You could do something like this. There's the height of this thing. Remember, it's going vertical. The height is 17. Here it is right here. Bam. Okay. The only thing you're going to be finding for a cone this year, the only place cone is on your formula chart is under volume. So if you see cone, you know you're finding volume in the 8th grade. Same formula. Volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height line. Which one of these numbers am I going to start with? The height. What is the height? 17. Now take it off your picture. Cross it off because we don't want that number. We don't want that number anymore. We already have it. Okay? So, now I need to find capital B. What's the shape of the base? What's the formula for circle? Pi r squared. Do I have my radius or do I need to cut that in half? I got to cut it in half. How do I cut something in half? Divide by 2. So I know my radius is 4.5. Got to square that and hit pi. Okay? Put that in parentheses. Now, one thing I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to do here and up here, but I'll come back to that. So let's go ahead and put 1/3 parentheses where are going to be our formula for the area of the base, and then our height line is 17. We're simply taking our area of the base here and we're substituting it for capital B. Our formula is pi times 4.5 squared. Put a box around this. This can be an answer choice. Okay, I'll show you some specific examples in just about 30 seconds. Okay? The next two, literally the next answer you're going to be able to ask for, be asked is this. And one of the things you can do is you can come up and take the last formula that you used, hit enter and it'll retype it, and you can just go back in and change the radius, highlight it, hit delete, put in your new radius, if you can watch what I'm doing, and then change your height line by deleting it and changing it to your new height line of 17. Okay, make sure it matches what you typed in, 1/3 times pi times the area of the base squared, or times the radius squared, times 17. There's my volume. 360.497. I'm not going to go any further. We need to talk about that 9 because we rounded to the nearest hundredths. Underline the 9, circle the 7 after it. Now, is that 7 big enough to change that 9? If we change that 9 by 1 penny, what's 1 more than 49? 50. So it's going to look like this, 360.50. Volume equals, my units of measure are millimeters, and I'm going to write cube because it's volume. Okay? Now, the last thing I'll make sure we hit before we get out of here, and that is, sometimes we will be asked to just, what is the value for capital B? So all you got to do in here is come in and say pi times your radius squared, 113.097. Underline the 9, circle the 7. Is that 7 big enough? So 113.10 is the area of the base for that cone up top. And down low, we're going to have pi times 4.5 squared (63.6). Let's just look on here. Is that 7 big enough to change that 1? Yeah, 7's big enough to change that 1. So what's it going to be? 6.2. Okay. All right. So on the back, you're going to have 1 on the back. And here's what I'm going to tell you can do on this. You can change this to a decimal if you can. Okay. Or you can estimate it to 3 if you'd like to do that. You can estimate it to the nearest whole number. On these, you're going to find 3 times the volume of the same cone and match that to this. These 3 should add up to this. Raise your hand if you have any questions and let me come around. We'll help you. Great job.